following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcasting Network. For a full list of our shows, as well as breaking sports news and engaging feature stories, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris Horwadell and welcome back to Tales from the Association. The episode you're about to hear was actually the first one I taped and sort of served as a test for whether or not the show would move forward. In this episode, I talk with former Marist big man Steve Castleberry. Steve spent some time with the Philadelphia 76ers and then played professionally overseas. While it took him a while to really get comfortable, I had a good time talking to Steve about his life as a fringe NBA player and overseas pro. He had some fun stories about what playing internationally can really be like. Just like I said last week, we didn't really have a name for the show in place at this point, and you'll see that reflect in my introduction. With all that being said, here is this week's episode of Tales from the Association.
Tales from the Association, yeah, it's going down. This the podcast, yeah, you heard it all around. Players hit us with that career, cause you know that basketball, man, is not always there. Sometimes it come and go from the recruitment to the college phase, back to the NBA draft, yeah, that's nowadays. Playing internationally, and at the life at a basketball, man, they gonna tell us all how it go. See, story is how now you know. Tales from the Association, yeah.
Welcome to a special edition of The Underdog. I'm Chris Horwadell, and my guest today is Steve Castleberry, a man who was part of the Philadelphia 76ers in 2005-2006, and also claims to be the tallest real estate agent in Florida. Steve, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's get to the first thing first here. Are those claims of being the tallest realtor in Florida substantiated?
No, not at all. Just kind of taking a guess.
Well, at what, 7 foot, like, I don't know, 260 at this point, something like that. I would think you have a pretty good shot of holding that honor.
Yeah, I'd say so. I met a guy down in Sarasota who was about 6'6", so I don't even have many people too close yet.
No, we're talking about a small forward to your center, Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry, what's that?
I said we're talking about a small forward to your traditional back-to-the-basket center.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you guys just had the hurricane down there. What was that like for you?
It was a lot of preparation. We bought all types of food and stuff. Then we boarded up, I think, 5 or 6 houses total, helping friends out and stuff. And then hurricane we lucked out a lot. He passed east of us at the last minute. And so we just finished cleaning up yesterday, taking all the stuff down and sweeping up all the branches and everything. But yeah, we really lucked out.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. It seems like it definitely could have been a lot worse overall. And, that's just a blessing. And I'm not one to say things are a blessing, but that kind of thing is a blessing because that was absolutely terrifying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was.
So you actually started bigmantraining.com. Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. It was an idea I've been toying with for a while. When I was growing up, I had a really tough time finding coaches that specialized in, teaching big men. There's a lot of guys who would teach guard skills, but I really needed like a big man coach. And it took a while to finally find some. And that's what really took my game to the next level and made the Division I and NBA and all that even possible. So I just kind of wanted to have an online platform where, guys from anywhere could reach out and I could just guide them online. And then, of course, if they're in the St. Pete or Tampa area, I can help them in person.
How different is the position of center or, even the 4 spot now from when you were coming up? Because it seems like we're getting into this era of the NBA where if you can't shoot from the outside, you can't play in the league.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. The players now, they're kind of like 5 players at just different heights, running around kind of all playing the same position. And I still think the old school kind of, back to the basket big man does have a place in the NBA. That's something that I teach, and that's how they taught all big men, unfortunately, when I grew up. But also, I am familiar with, the changing ways of the big man. And, even if it's something that a big man just uses, in little circumstances here and there, like a play where you just flash across, get the ball real quick, and just make a quick move. That's kind of where it's headed. Not like the old days where it was like Olajuwon versus Ewing, and they just tee up on each other and you just watch the show.
I miss that. I really miss that.
Me too. It was great.
Yeah, gone are the. I guess Patrick Ewing was kind of a jump shooter, but that era of unbelievable centers with Olajuwon, with Robinson, with Ewing, later O'Neal came in. Like, we'll never have that again.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully, there's a couple other big man coaches out there, and we can bring it back. But yeah, it's just the NBA is kind of like I think it's a league of followers, and they see something work, and then they all do it. And I really think the guy that set it all off was Nowitzki. A big 7-footer who could shoot, and everyone tried to copy him, and it kind of just made its way where the NBA they just want that now.
Yeah, and I guess even more than that, even more than the kind of back to the basket 7-foot post players, because you do still see that here and there, even if they get criticized for it, like Okafor in Philadelphia. But I guess the bruising power forward is the position that's really completely gone from basketball now.
Oh yeah, those guys they clean up in Europe. They do really well over there, but. Yeah, like those big 6'8" guys who are just super strong and impossible to guard for most people. Like in the NBA, it doesn't seem to work out for them a lot. There's a lot of just athletic guys who can just make their game a little less effective. Yeah, but over in Europe, those guys they're killing it.
I think of the Davis brothers when I think of that. Like Antonio and Dale Davis would just never have a position in the NBA today.
Yeah. Dale Davis, he was a beast for years, you know. And I agree with you. It would be tough to really put him in on a squad where he'd at least be allowed to play as much as he did.
For sure. So let's get to know Steve Castleberry. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Chicago area, Joliet, and then I moved to New Jersey, and I lived there for about 20 years, and I've been in Florida for about 6.
Where did you live in New Jersey?
Mantua, New Jersey, and Mullica Hill, New Jersey. I split my time between the two very small towns right next to Philly.
Right. So did you grow up a Philadelphia fan? Did you grow up a fan of New York sports or New York sports or Chicago sports? What was it?
Mostly a mix of Chicago and Philadelphia. I definitely did not like the New York sports.
Good.
I couldn't stand the Giants growing up. I still like fantasy football, and I have to draft a Giants player. I kind of cringe.
That's very understandable. So you were there for those great Randall Cunningham and the great Jerome Brown, Reggie White days.
Oh yeah, yeah. Randall Cunningham was the man. He was a lot of fun to watch. When they had McNabb, he was another dynamic quarterback. It was a lot of fun.
What did you think? What did you think of? I'm born in California, but spent most of my life in Pennsylvania, and now back in California. But I grew up a huge fan of Philadelphia sports too, and remain a huge fan of Philadelphia sports. So, what did you think of McNabb? Because he's kind of a polarizing player.
I loved him. I loved him and Andy Reid, the combo. The Philly was in the playoffs every single year, like a good, solid team. And McNabb, he held it down. He was really consistent, and he played well. And I got really upset when they got rid of Reid, because, he's doing great in Kansas City. And he was on the Eagles. Philly was fun to watch every single year. We were in the playoffs, getting deep into the playoffs sometimes.
Yeah, you had to make room for the great Chip Kelly, of course.
Yeah. The first game I remember where they won. His first game as a coach, they're getting all those plays off, and they're like, "This is the new way the NFL is going to be," and they made a big deal about it. Then it kind of fizzled out pretty quickly.
Yeah, if I remember that correctly, it was pretty much the first half was that new era of football, and then the Redskins kind of adjusted, and then we kind of got mediocrity for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, he shipped out a lot of good players too, which really set the Eagles back.
Yes, he did, because, obviously you can't relate to players like Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin and LaShawn McCoy, so now they just have to be superstars for other teams while I get to watch LeGarrette Blount get 3.5 yards a carry.
Yep. Yeah. I saw, I think New England got the last good surge out of him last year. They really pounded it, with him, and now we're going to get him. And, I hope he can stand up, but, he's kind of like a big physical running back, and they don't really last too long.
Yeah, and they don't seem like they really fit in our system. What are your expectations for this team this season? Obviously, week 1 went pretty well.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by that. I hope they can squeak into the playoffs. I think that'll kind of be like the best case scenario, I guess you could say.
I'd like to see a running back and a cornerback. I feel like that's where we're a little weak right now, especially after the Darby injury.
Yeah. With the running backs are the most infuriating position, I think, is because the injuries and everything. And some teams, they get a guy hurt and they just plug it in another guy who's like an undrafted guy who's been in a practice squad for a couple of years, and he just kills it. And other teams, it's like, a super skilled running back like Le'Veon Bell, and if he goes down, it's really hard to replace him.
Well,
so
Le'Veon Bell is a dirty word in this household, as my girlfriend is a longtime Cleveland Browns fan, which makes football interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not big fans of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, it's been tough times for Browns fans.
Yes, yeah, that's an understatement. But let's get back to you. So where'd you go to high school? Where'd you play in high school?
I went to Clearview, and then I went to Solebury Prep School. Clearview is a small school, and then Solebury is it was kind of like grade 13.
Yeah.
So after I graduated high school, I went there to kind of fill out and work on my game.
Yeah, how tough is that? Because I guess we don't really think of that element of sort of the evolution of a large player. How much just strength did you have to gain to be able to compete in college?
A ton. I was really thin in high school. I think I was 6'9", 6'10", like 185 pounds as a senior.
Oh boy.
And I hated the weight room, so I went to prep school, and I started like learning about weights and hitting the weights. And still, I was probably 6'11", maybe a little over 200, so still super thin, but I kind of had something to work with. And then still out of prep school, I had a redshirt year to even be able to play against Division I players.
All right, well, you ended up picking Ryder. What made you go to that school?
Well, I finished there. I started at Marist.
Oh, you're right. I apologize.
Transferred. No problem. I played so many places. But yeah, I finished at Ryder because, after Marist, I kind of saw the writing on the wall there with the way kind of things are going with some of the players, and I didn't really get along with them. And so I jumped ship, and I went to Dixie out in Utah, and that was a junior college. The reason I did that was because from Division I, you have to sit out a year.
Yeah.
But if you go to junior college, you can play that year in junior college and go right back to Division I and keep playing, so you don't have to sit out. And so I did that, and I chose Ryder because, it's a really good business school, and it's close to my house in New Jersey. I was kind of homesick after being in Utah, so I was like, all right, I can play close to home, and I had a position kind of waiting for me, because they graduated their starting center, and I could kind of I was a good fit for them, and it worked out really well. It was a great school.
I like that. That's the most honest answer I've ever heard. It's a good school, and it was close to my house.
It helped. It made the decision really easy. Like I looked at University of Maine, and I liked the school a lot. They had a great coach, Coach Giannini, who went to LaSalle. But when I was up in Maine, I was like, oh man, it was like March, and there's still ice flows going down the river, and I was like, I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm interested in I want to get interested in this Marist thing for just a second. What's the culture shock like from going from southern New Jersey to Utah?
Oh, Marist was in New York. I'm sorry, and then I went to Utah, Dixie State out there, and the culture shock from going out west to Utah was big because Utah is a Mormon community, and they're very polite, I guess you could say. And, from New Jersey, everyone curses all the time. They're kind of pushy, and Utah, everyone's so nice. So it felt weird moving back to New Jersey and kind of with all my friends, and they're all cursing all the time. We're just kind of acting the way we do. And it really felt weird for like a year or two, just like saying, like, just talking normally.
I like that you're confirming the stereotypes about people from New Jersey.
Oh, yeah. The drivers and everything. We do have good food.
Then the beach can be fun, if not somewhat dirty.
Yeah. Wildwood Boardwalk is a experience that everyone should have at least once in their life.
Yeah, probably not with children. You probably don't want to take the kids there.
No, not at all.
The boardwalk is not what I remember the boardwalk being growing up. I have these very fond memories of it being like a fun thing to do when you're young, and it has evolved into a weird world of its own.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately for me, I kind of always went to the Ocean City boardwalk, because I just go there during the day with like my mom or something. We just go hang out, and I never really got into the Seattle City or Atlantic City or any of those places. But it gets pretty crazy down there from what I've heard.
So we end up at Ryder. Who was your coach there?
Don Hurnham.
And what was your takeaway? What did you get from Coach Hurnham?
He put a lot of faith in me. Coming out of junior college, he just, I started right away. And he was a no nonsense kind of guy. He worked us hard, and that's kind of what I got from it. Was just a really good work ethic, and no nonsense, kind of just grind through everything. And so, kind of as you go up into the pros and stuff, the coaches tend to be a little bit nicer. And when you come out of college with like Coach Arnhem, if you're screwing up, he lets you know. So it's kind of, from that perspective, an angry coach was, not a problem to deal with, where some players, kind of take it personally.
Do you think that's sort of a function of necessity with coaches having to, as you say, get a little bit nicer as we get into the pros, as you're now dealing with, people who are making more money than them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. The NBA coaches, they have to appease the players. If they piss off all those guys, they're going to be out the door before the players are. So they have to keep that in mind the whole time they're dealing with these multi-million-dollar players. If they, if someone comes in and pisses off a guy like LeBron James or something, they're not going to trade off LeBron. That coach is out of there.
Right.
So they have to.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so they have to, basically get along with the players is their number one priority if they want to keep working.
It takes a lot of winning before you can have a personality like a Popovich.
Yeah, Popovich, Jerry Sloan, those guys. They can. There are very few of them who can call the shots.
So before we jump into the next evolution of your career, I want to talk about, you mentioned you transferred, and there's this movement now to abolish the mandatory 1 year redshirt year when you go from one D1 school to another. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's a bad idea?
I think it's a good idea. I know for a while, I don't know if it's still the case, but baseball, those guys could transfer from D1 to D1 and not sit out. And some of those guys have been to like 6 schools in 3 years. They're transferring every semester. Mm-hmm. So if it gets like that, it would be terrible. But I think they should be allowed like one transfer, and then if that doesn't work out, then they have to sit out a year. But, it's really hard to make a decision that you're going to be, bound to for 4 years off a, 2-day recruiting trip. And so many things can change at a school after you get there.
Isn't the concern, though, that this basically opens up college basketball free agency?
Yeah. I mean, geez, that would be a huge dilemma, because there'd be a lot of, I could just see how crazy that could get with all these, big-time players, switching around from school to school. It would change the face of basketball for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, the NCAA, they don't want that, but Yeah, I mean, it would be really interesting, and I think it would be a free agent market, and there'd be guys, doing whatever they can to get top recruits.
Yeah, and I think specifically at those smaller schools, it's going to make your life as a coach a lot harder.
Yeah, it will, because at Rider we had Jason Thompson. He went.
Oh,
he got drafted. He was a lottery pick out of Rider, and a guy like him, I remember we had a game on ESPN or something, and they were saying that he could transfer to the ACC or go wherever he wanted. He wanted to transfer. He never did, but guys like that, the rare gem you get in mid-major, yeah, they'd be all trying to grab him from his school.
This actually segues nicely because Jason Thompson not only part of that Rider Brotherhood with you, but also part of the Philadelphia 76ers Brotherhood. You ended up a member of the 76ers for a while in 2005, 2006. After going undrafted in 2005, was that a surprise, or was that kind of expected to be undrafted in 2005?
Oh yeah, I'd say there's a 0% chance of getting drafted. I was shocked just to even get a call from the Sixers for a workout, much less end up on the roster for a moment.
Well, how did that come to be? Let's talk about that.
Originally, I started, I was close enough to Philly where I'd work out in Philadelphia over the summers, just kind of train. And there was a guy there named John Hardnett who he passed away, unfortunately. He was a heck of a guy. All the Philly basketball players knew him. And he ran these workouts, and, I was working out all summer, and then one day a guy from Greece was supposed to work out with this other guy, this big 6'11", 285-pounder. And the guy from Greece, his flight got delayed, and they just needed somebody to work out this 6'11" guy. And so they called me up, and I worked out against him, and I held my own, did pretty well. And then that guy got hurt halfway through the workout. So then they brought me in again with some other guys, and then kind of just one thing led to another, being at the right place at the right time. And at the last minute before the Sixers camp, Matt Barnes went to the Knicks, and so they had an open spot, and that's where I kind of, hey, Castleberry, we need a big man. So there I am.
That's funny. So basically it's all, I mean, it's obviously you put in the hard work to get there, but ultimately it's a right place at the right time kind of deal. It
is. If you're a fringe player, it is. Like how I was, just looking for anything. But the amount of separation between, I'd say, like the 8th guy on the roster and the rest of the roster, on the way down, the 8th through like 12th, there's very little difference. It's kind of, if you have connections, or if you have a higher upside maybe, or you just played at a better school than the other guy. Like there's so little difference that they'll just take the guy who they're a little more familiar with, or has a better, I guess, resume. And the guys are so close, and it's
Well, I think one of the great misnomers is people not giving respect to how talented the guys who are good enough to be on the fringes of an NBA roster actually are. I play I moved to California, as I said, but when I was back in Pennsylvania, I played in a very competitive rec league, and every team had a couple of guys who played overseas, everybody, 3 or 4 guys who played in college. And we had a guy named Kenny Hasbrook play with us one summer. And Kenny played at that Siena. He played on that Siena team that beat Evan Turner's Ohio State team on the 2 buzzer beaters in the NCAA tournament a while back. And Kenny ended up playing with the Heat on a 10-day. And he is he's just so much better than everybody else. It's crazy how good you have to be to get to that level, and how overlooked that is.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I'd have like these basketball cards of players who are the NBA, and they average like 3 points a game. I was like, who are these guys? They must stink. But those guys are like some of the best in the world. And the worst player in the NBA is probably not as good as a lot of players in Europe. There's a lot of really good players in Europe who kind of stay there for familiarity, or they just get paid better. And then there are guys without jobs who are not much worse than, or probably better than a lot of guys in Europe. So there's a lot of overlap with talent, with the different leagues. And just, if you're anywhere near an NBA, just the radar, it's, you gotta be a pretty good player. And yeah, if you get one of those guys in a rec league team, it's a pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. We had a similar thing last summer. My buddy Anthony Frazier, who actually was in a similar-ish situation to you, going through workouts and all the pre-draft stuff with the 76ers, only he didn't get his chance. And he came in, the big 6'8" small forward who can do everything, and all of a sudden we go from being competitive to winning every game by 25 points. So you're right. It's quite a boon to add a guy who has pro-level talent. So let's talk about your time with the 76ers. What was that like?
It was a huge culture shock in a really good way. It's kind of because college is a grind. There's a lot of just running around, sprinting, and kind of just wearing you out without. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of purpose to what you do every time. Mm-hmm. And then NBA is just you just walk through the door and all of a sudden like the trainer's like, do you need anything? Can I get you more Gatorade? Can I stretch you out? What do you need to work on in the weight room? Here's this workout for you. It's just like everything's taken care of, and like here's a hotel room you can stay at while you're with the team, so you don't have to drive back and forth to New Jersey, and then you fly into private jets everywhere. It's just crazy. Like, wow, I'm used to taking a bus, sit sideways in the seats and all that.
And you guys played in the preseason. You played in summer league, correct?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And what was that like? Who were you playing with at that point?
With the preseason, it was Chris Webber, Iverson, Iguodala,
oh my God.
Lou Williams, Sammy Dallenberg.
Okay, there are some characters on that team.
Oh yeah, they're a really good team when you look back. Korver and Iguodala are still, they're both in the finals last year, contributing. So, it's 11 years ago, they're still in the NBA kicking butt. So
was that an Iverson team or was that post Iverson?
Yeah, it was Iverson. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, obviously, Allen is much like Donovan McNabb. Allen is a polarizing figure. I've only had he lived very close to me. I saw him quite a bit. He was always very, very nice to everybody anytime I saw him. What was your takeaway of Allen Iverson?
I liked him a lot. He was always really friendly to me, and he's always had lots of funny stories he was telling, so I'd always kind of try to eavesdrop and hear him. He was like encouraging during practice. He was I thought he was just a really nice guy.
How about Webber? Because Webber is another interesting guy.
Webber is an amazing person, just an amazing player. I really was impressed just by how helpful he was to me. He just take time and be like, hey Steve, try this thing out, try that thing out, and I was like, wow, he was a future Hall of Famer, just kind of like shooting the shit with me, just hanging out, and yeah, I was really impressed. And he was just he does a lot of things really well, mm-hmm. As a basketball player, and the transition he made from the young athletic guy to the crafty vet was just so seamless that it really just is a testament to how much of a great player he is.
You keep up with any of those guys at this point?
No, unfortunately I don't. I've never been really good at following up with people. Unfortunately, I wish I did.
Well, these things happen. So what was that? Which came first? I'm sorry, I don't know the timeline here. Was it the preseason or the summer league? Who came first?
Oh, the preseason, and did the summer league after the season.
Okay, so you play how many games that preseason?
I was probably in somewhere around 8 games.
And what happened that the decision was made to move on from the Steve Castleberry era with the 76ers?
Towards the end of the preseason, there's 5 of us going for the last spot, mm-hmm. and 2 of the guys had already been cut, and so it was down to 3 of us, and it's pretty good odds, 1 out of 3. But towards the very end, it was pretty apparent that they're going to keep this guy James Thomas because he was the only guy playing. There was me and one other player who were kind of just sitting on the sidelines watching, and so I kind of knew it was coming. I didn't expect to make the team towards the very end. And then, they just kind of went with James.
You say you don't expect to make the team, but was there still a degree of this is heartbreaking? Oh yeah, for sure. I was a little crushed, for a bit, but I was also, very heartened because I had the chance at the NBA and I was still a rookie, so
I figured I'd get more chances in the future.
Okay, so you're let go at the end of the preseason. What happens between then and next summer league?
I tried out in Ukraine. I flew over there, and that was just a complete disaster.
Why was it a disaster?
Oh man! So it was Thanksgiving Day. They fly me out, and I get this like really cryptic itinerary, and I land in Kiev, and I was supposed to catch like a little public jumper from Kiev, Ukraine, to Odessa, which is right near where I was going to play. I couldn't understand the itinerary. It was just kind of like weird like words here and there. And one of the words is Globus, which is like a travel agency, I guess, in Europe. So I saw Globus, and I was thinking it's like spelled Globus. So I thought it was like a bus. So I'm looking around for this bus, and I'm looking all over the place. I have no idea what I'm looking for. And then I see Globus as like this stand. And after I walked around for a bit, it was closed. I already missed my flight, so I was like, oh, man. So I panicked, and the whole time there was like these aggressive cab drivers just bothering me. So I'm always trying to like hide from them, and like before cell phones were really effective, and I couldn't get on the cell phone, or I couldn't get on the pay phones without these guys like pestering me. So I was like kind of running around the corner hiding. And by the time I got figured out, it was like I had to catch a train from Odessa, from Kiev to Odessa, which is like a 1 hour flight, but it was like a 12-hour train ride, and I had no idea. So I just bought this ticket, jumped on the train, and went. I didn't tell anybody that I was on the train. And 12 hours later, we get to Odessa, and the coach is like waiting for me outside the train. I have no idea how he knew I got on that train. So I get off the train, and I grab my bags, and I go back to the hotel, and they want me to practice like right off the bat. It was like a 40-hour trip.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not going to practice. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I was so tired. I was dizzy. I was, like, almost hallucinating. So I take a nap, and then they call me again for the afternoon practice. Like, Steve, now you must practice. I'm like, no. I'm like, this, but that's not how it works overseas. Like, it was a miracle I didn't have to practice the first time. So they bring me in the second practice of the day, and I go in there, and I notice right away that they already have 3 centers. I'm the 4th center, and they don't have a small forward at all. They're just missing that position.
Sure.
So I'm okay, there's some translation issue. So I'm obviously not a 3-man. And so, I try to practice and try to make the team and everything, but I mean, they have 3 centers. They're all really good. One's like a guy who graduated from Syracuse, and the 2 are young Ukrainian guys who are both like 6'10", 6'11", young, athletic. So there just wasn't a spot for me. So they flew me home one day. That was it for Ukraine.
Is there a thought in your head that you're just like, I'm going to go with this? You're right. I'm rebranding myself as a small forward right now. I'm a 3-point shooter. I'm going to handle the ball.
I wish I had thought of that. No, I was just like, I'm going to be a center, and I'm going to be a better center than these other guys. But it didn't work out. So
you could have been the Dirk of the Ukraine.
I could have, and that was my big chance because coming up through college, I was like, if I just was a little younger, I could have been groomed like a guard, like how Dirk was, and I'd be a different player. So that was a big opportunity. I should have just ran with it. I didn't even think of it.
Life comes down to these missed chances. But so you're at what, a 24-year-old, and you're lost in Kiev, basically. That's a story, at least you have. That's something that you got from that trip.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was out there in Ukraine, and I was just off the grid, kind of, because it wasn't like today where you can just hop on the internet so easily and just connect with everybody. I was kind of stuck out there. I figured I didn't even have a laptop. I was like, I'll buy a laptop when I get out there, and so my phone, I couldn't charge it because I didn't have the adapter. Yeah. So I was kind of on my own for a bit.
How many times have you wondered to yourself, how did that coach know I was on the train?
All the time. I don't know how they figured it out, because the second I got off the train, the guy was right there. He was right beside my car. It wasn't like he was walking up and down the plank. Like, he was there, and he's like, let's go, Steve. I'm like, what? So that was pretty lucky. I mean, I don't know what I would have done if I...
Crazy story. That is absolutely crazy. And that's what you think about when when you want these crazy playing overseas stories. Like, that is exactly what you want. I mean, it's tough to get thrown into the deep end like that, but you know, it's nice. I think after the fact, it's fun to have gone through that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when you're living it, you kind of know that eventually it's going to make a good story, but when you're there, you're like, okay, this kind of sucks.
So then you're immediately put back on a plane and flown back to New Jersey?
Yep, I had a week of Ukrainian basketball practices, which were insane, and then I went back to the States after that.
Why insane?
A few reasons. The coach was ex-Yugoslavian, which Serbia produces a heckload of really good basketball players, and it's because the coaches work those players like crazy, and the amount of running they do is just unbelievable. And it seems like if you play in Europe, you know, and you have like an ex-Yugoslavian kind of coach, like a Serbian coach, you know you're going to do a lot of sprints after practice, like a lot. And so we had one of those coaches, and he was just running the crap out of us. It was exhausting. And then we had to do weights after every practice, and the weight room wasn't like a typical weight room, which was free weights. It was all machines that were like controlled, like this key fob kind of thing. So you walk up to the fob, it would recognize your name. It's like, okay, it's Steve's on the machine. Let's put the bench press to 200 pounds and make them do 8 reps. And it would tell you that, you know, you have like a sheet, but every time you went back in the weight room, the weights would go up a little bit. So if you did 200 one week, the next week would be 202. And you'd be expected to, you know, rep all these things out. And if you didn't do it, you know, the coach would kind of be in your face like, why are you being so lazy? Are you hurt? Like, what's the matter? Like, why can't you lift all this weight? And I'm like, oh, we just ran for, you know, an hour straight, and now we're straight into the weight room. It's pretty crazy.
That's way more high-tech than I would have expected.
Oh, yeah, me too. And it wasn't even weights that were on it. They're all, like, hydraulically controlled. So it was just, you know, just the resistance, you know, with the hydraulics in the machine.
That is really interesting. All right, so that whole situation doesn't quite work out. And is that just kind of, are you working, or what are you doing until Summer League?
Oh, so I came back home, and then, you know, I had an agent at the time, and then I had a tryout with a CBA team called the Albany Patroons. And so I get on that team, and there's, you know, I'm going for a spot there, and there's a few other guys who I'm competing against. And again, it's that guy, James Thomas, who beat me out by 76ers. Yeah, it was like me. It was like there's 2 spots left, and it was me, Jamario Moon, who was like an NBA dunk contest a couple years later, and James Thomas. So, and they had this coach, Michael Ray Richardson, who was
wow.
Yeah, he was not pleasant, I will say.
Yeah.
And so I got on that team, and I was trying out, and I'm like, okay, this coach is crazy. And so I got released from there, and that was definitely for the best. And then after that, I ended up with the Sioux Falls Skyforce for the second half of the CBA season, and that team was awesome. Those are just a great group of guys. Any
interesting names on that roster?
Yeah, there's a lot, actually. We had Steve Graham, who had a bunch of contracts in the NBA. I actually played against him in a summer league game here in St. Pete, like last summer. And then he didn't recognize me. He was only on the team for like 5 minutes. He got called back up to the NBA. We had Mark Sanford. He was a first-round pick with the Heat. And Jermaine Walker. I think he is also on the Heat at some point. Billy Thomas. He was a guard. He had like a 10-day with the Nets. And so we had like another guy who got called up to the Sonics. That's how long ago it was. We had this guy on Noel Felix who was a super athletic, like power forward. He ended up playing on the Sonics for a bit. And so we had a lot of like NBA call-ups, you know, before the D-League bought them out. You know, the CBA was where to play. Right. And then, so yeah, we had a bunch of guys go to the NBA from there.
Okay, so then you're back with the 76ers. What is your expectation going into the Summer League?
I just thought, you know, this is my chance to really make the team, you know, because it's the second time around, so it's kind of like they kept an eye on me all year, and now it's like I'm not just some fluke. It's like, okay, we like Castleberry, so let's get him out here. And so it went kind of well at first. You know, I started the first game, and I thought that was like a pretty awesome
yeah, absolutely.
Deal. But,
that's great.
Yeah, and it was a good workout, and it wasn't like a the summer league's not like a money making type of thing. You expect to kind of get paid whenever you do anything in the NBA. I think I broke even with the summer league, but basically we had two guys on the team. Lou Williams was, I think, going into his second year at that point, and so basically the whole summer league was to get him shots.
Yeah.
I just basically set screens for him the whole time, and whenever I was out there, set screen. And the only time I got the ball was like little dump off passes for like layups or dunks, or like someone got stuck and had to pick up the dribble and I was just open. But yeah, at that time I wasn't really like an ISO kind of post player anyway. I was more of a team player and just go with the flow.
Sure, you would develop into that, but not yet.
Yeah. In Europe, I kind of the gist of it.
So what is it's a baby Lou Williams, 19-year-old Lou Williams, and the whole team is, let's get Lou touches and let's get Lou comfortable. What did you think of him at that point? Did you think this is a guy who's going to have a 10+ year career, or this is a guy who's going to have to figure some stuff out?
I thought he was a guy who was going to have to figure some stuff out. I guess both kind of came true because he was so young, coming straight out of high school, and he was cocky. He was like not like apprehensive at all. In the locker room and everything. He was just like, I'm the man. Even though he's so much younger than all these guys. He's skinny and but he was a man. He really developed and figured it all out, and now he's just solid.
I remember. Do you remember the old MTV show Cribs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lou Williams showed up on an episode randomly at Bow Wow's house.
Oh,
and I was just like, all right, this embodies Lou Williams perfectly.
Yeah. I guess they're both like, what is it, the Atlanta area?
Yeah, it's just super random. So, okay, that doesn't work out. And at this point, this is kind of where the casual fan, your story ends. We have so many guys who we've seen, and they're gone at that point. But for you, basically, this is the beginning of your professional career. What is the next step after being let go from the summer league team? Well, having the summer league end.
Oh yeah. So after summer league, I had tried out in Cyprus, which was another disaster, and then I went from Cyprus back home, and I went to the Minot Skyrockets in the CBA. And I played the whole season there in North Dakota with the Minot Skyrockets. Yeah. And that went well. I didn't do as much as I thought I could because basketball is such a fickle beast. It's like if you don't play a lot of minutes, you don't get stats. If you don't get stats, you don't get a job the next year.
Yeah.
So I didn't play as much as I could have. I would have liked to. I probably played 20 minutes a game, so then I averaged I think 9.5 points and 7 rebounds. But if you ratchet up from 20 minutes a game to 30, all of a sudden my stats are 14 and 10, and then I'm getting offers in Europe, right off the bat without, trying to push it too hard. And so it's just how basketball is. You have to get minutes to get jobs.
Yeah, how tough is that line to walk? Because, like you say, you need to make an impression to get the next job, but you need minutes to make an impression. Do you feel like you have to do something anytime you're on the court? Is that going through your mind, or are you just trying to play basketball and let it come?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely going through your mind. And it goes through all the players' minds, because the coach, he wants everyone to play as a team, and he wants the team to win. And in college, you can kind of swallow that bitter pill, to be part of the team and be part of a bigger cause. But in the pros, the mentality does help the team, but it also means you might not have a job the next year if you're kind of like a super efficient player who's playing 20 minutes a game and averaging 7 points and 5 rebounds. You might be the glue that helps the team out, but next season comes around, a team from Europe's combing through your stats, and he only averaged 7 points. We need a score. But if you're playing 20 minutes a game, you're shooting 60% from the field, it doesn't look good.
Right.
And so that was kind of what happened with me over there. I just wasn't getting the big minutes that I would have liked, and my stats suffered. And it gets hectic. Players get really frustrated, and I was definitely getting frustrated because you have a game where it's the coach plays you for 4 minutes and then you get 3 points, and you're like, I'd be better off not playing because this is killing my stats.
Yeah, you're right. It's stuff we don't think about as a casual fan, but yeah, that must just torture you at night. This is, I played well when I was in, but at the end of the day, today probably goes down as a negative for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I was on the Skyforce, I was a rookie, so I wasn't playing a lot, and we had some guys on the team like, Castleberry, man, you're per 48, your stats per 48 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your per 48 is crazy. You played 3 minutes there, you had 4 points and 2 rebounds. They're like, if you played the whole game. I was like, yeah. So I kind of like talked to the coach. I'm like, Coach, let me play 48 next game. And he was a really good guy. He actually ended up being the Sioux Falls coach, Coach Dave Yeager. He ended up.
Oh wow!
I think he's still the head coach at the Kings.
Right, the Kings, right? Formerly, the Grizzlies.
He was with the Grizzlies, and then he was awesome. And so he should have played me more if he hears this.
Well,
I'm sure he regrets it.
Now you have an in. You have an in with the Kings. That's a struggling franchise, Steve.
They might need me for a 10-day. I'm in decent shape.
There's no DeMarcus is gone. Now just a bunch of kids on that team. You have Labissiere and Harry Giles there. So a veteran presence in the post definitely necessary.
Yeah, and I've been putting up hurricane shutters all weekend, so nice and strong.
Is that the Florida equivalent of like farm strength?
Exactly. That's what it is.
So when you talk about offers like going to the Ukraine, going to Cyprus, where does that come from, or is this just a random call your agent gets?
Yeah, it's a definitely through the agent. He has his connections over in Europe. He goes through the different channels that he has, whatever they may be, and he finds jobs. And he comes up and like, okay, I think I have the right guy for this. Because then then he sends me out there. The team agrees to it, and it's a long process, and it seems like it's always rushed, because they need a guy, and it's like, we need a guy. The team in Europe, they'll be asking for a player, and you'll hear about it from your agent, like, hey, Steve, you might be going to Germany next week, and you're like, oh, cool, all right, and then keep me posted, and 90% of the time it fizzles out. Then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're going to like Ukraine, and you're going like in 2 days, so it's like, get your stuff together, get ready to go.
Has there ever been one of those that came up and you were kind of like, I don't know about this, or is it just always awesome, I want the opportunity?
I think all of them were both, because, it's, you're kind of like at home, you're comfortable, but then it's like, okay, you're going to like China and you're going in 2 days.
Sure.
And you're like, okay. It's like, that's really far. It's a completely different culture and everything, but you're like, yeah, let's do it. And so it's always like a fun adventure, and so it's nerve-wracking too, because when you're over there, you're all of a sudden you're like super isolated, you're away from everybody, and you're like, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah.
You kind of always have that lingering doubt in the back of your head.
Is the thought always, I'm going to play well here and that's going to get me my next shot, or does the sort of morph into, this is how I make a living?
Yeah, it's weird. Like when so whenever you have a job overseas, you have to perform or that's it, because you have one bad season, you can be done. And each country's a little different, because if you're playing like, I played in Dominican one summer, and I knew like if I went over there and I just played horribly, it wouldn't really affect me too much because, it's not like the European market, and, it's kind of under the radar a little bit. And, but if you go have a whole bad season in Europe, it's like, that's a death sentence pretty much.
And so what happens after that? What happens after Cyprus and all of there? Where does Steve Castleberry ever sort of settle into a job overseas?
I did. I played 1 year in China, but then after that I played 3 years in the Czech Republic.
Okay. What was that experience like? Because talk about a different culture.
Oh yeah, China was, I was there twice. I went there once. It was a really random like tournament in this small town right near the Vietnamese border, and we were there for 3 games a week overall, and we Slovenian team just like a scrimmage, and three games. We lost, still we won the third, and that was because they threw the game for us. I'm convinced. times that they threw the game. And that was for the local fans to kind of get into the spirit of basketball. Like, hey, we have a pro team now. Let's go and support them. And if we lose 3 times in a row to the same team, it's not going to look good. So the rest were definitely in on it.
Oh. Let me ask you a question, because, you are a very, very tall man. And I've been around some of these people who, because of their height, they feel there's an obligation to play basketball, or at least basketball is the easiest path to success. Were you a guy who it afforded you an opportunity for a job, or were you a guy who just loved playing basketball?
Yeah, first, it was an opportunity, free education, and then I kind of started training for it, and I fell in love with it. And then college was like love at the very first. It was like, all right, with the 76ers and stuff. But then it came up.
Well, that's awesome. We're starting to have some audio problems, and we're also getting up to that 50-minute mark. So seems as good a place as any to end it here. Steve Castleberry, thanks so much for coming on the show and telling us about your career, giving us some fun stories, and just letting us peek behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you.